What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. It is January 3rd, time of recording, so happy new year. And we are going to be talking about New Year's resolutions here. I'm going to go through some of mine, and we'll talk about kind of how I go about doing that. We're first going to talk about why some people kind of shit on New Year's resolutions and think that they're useless and kind of talk down to them and what I think about that point of view. We'll talk about how to set some better New Year's resolutions, right? How to actually do this in a decent way. And then I'll go through kind of what mine are for this year, and maybe some of my waffling and word vomit can help you kind of make your New Year's resolution setting more productive. I think that that's a really good way for people to spend their energy instead of kind of shitting on the process altogether. But let's kick that off. And so there are people out there, you'll see rhetoric out there of like, nobody sticks to them anyway, bro. Like, New Year's resolutions are stupid. And people hold that opinion for basically two reasons. One is people don't stick to them. They'll say, oh, New Year's resolutions are dumb because people don't stick to them. And the second reason is that you shouldn't need January 1st. And so the first part, people are like, oh, people don't stick to it. You don't need New Year's resolutions. It's like, New Year's resolutions are just goals. Like, it's just a moment to set some goals. And so if you say, I have a little bit of a cold here, I'm going to try and keep the sniffling to a minimum. I did not bring a tissue. I could have blown my nose and then had my man editor edit this out. But all right, okay, I'm going to keep the sniffling to a minimum. So people say that people don't stick to New Year's resolutions. That's a reason that they're dumb. It's like, well, they're just goals. And so, like, yeah, most people, like, the ratio of like the amount of goals that are set and the amount of goals that are hit, yeah, it's low. Like, of course, like we set a lot of goals. We don't always hit them. But one of the like, instead of shitting on goal setting as a practice, how about helping people set better ones? If you're someone out there who's like a coach or just whatever, somebody making content on like, oh, New Year's resolutions are dumb, nobody sticks to them. It's like, how about you help people set better ones? You know, that's like people being like, oh, dieting doesn't work, or like macro counting doesn't work, or calorie deficit doesn't work. It's like, that's not really the best place to put your energy. It's like, how about we help people do this in a better way? They'll be more successful that way. So I hate that. Oh, people don't stick to it. I'm like, yeah, people don't stick to it because people set shitty goals. People are terrible at setting goals. Like, that's why the goal setting process feels like a non-starter. It feels like, oh, it's not that important. First of all, ask any successful person on earth. You know, the vast majority of them are going to talk about goal setting in a very positive light, like it's been very helpful for them, most of them. And then the second part, like, oh, you shouldn't need January 1, like, it's just an excuse to push back your goals or whatever, like, annoying hustle culture, like 22-year-old, business coach mentality you have, whatever. Like the clean slate effect or clean start effect or fresh start effect, whatever it's called, like, it's real. Like, it's real. And what I mean by it's real, I mean, there is an amount of energy that you can derive from this clean slate mentality. And it's not a sign of weakness that you utilize that energy. Listen, I coach hundreds and thousands of people over the last decade. And some of them have been like, I've had a call on a Friday, right? Let's say I have an onboarding call with a new client on a Friday. And some of them have decided, you know what, I'll start all of this on Monday. And some of them have said, I'm going to start right now, right when we get off this call. I'm going to start tracking my food. I'm going to start sending you whatever I need to send you, all this stuff. There's no correlation between the people who started on Monday and having worse success and the people who started on Friday having more success. Utilizing that fresh start effect, whether it's starting on a Monday or when you get back from vacation or after this wedding or, to me, has not correlated with success or failure. There's people who have started immediately when they get off the call with me, and there's people that started a week and a half later when they came back from vacation. And that, to me, there's no correlation between who has found more success. Like, what sort of mentality represents the kind of person who's going to see more success? I haven't seen it. So here's my stance. I'll shut up and we'll get to how to set better goals. But goal setting can be such an awesome thing that it is an end that is justifiable by any means. And if the means is by channeling a new year, new me, January 1st, clean slate, fresh start energy, if that's the means, if that's what gets you to actually pull out a pen and paper, or whatever, laptop, keyboard, whatever, and actually sit down and do kind of some of the stuff we're going to talk about now, then that is an end justifiable by any means. If it took January 1st for you to get motivated to pull that pad of paper out and actually start thinking about, like, reflecting on your year, looking forward to this year, kind of assessing who you are as a person, looking at different aspects of your life, like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, and I don't care if that took you January 1st to do that. Someone's like, well, yeah, but you could have started December 16th and you would have had a head start on it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Totally. And if that feels right, if you're the kind of person who's like, yeah, logically, it doesn't make sense for me to wait another month. Why can't I just start on December 1st? Yeah, hell yeah, you should absolutely do it. It is factual that if you start on December 1st, you will have a 30-day head start. So starting sooner is better, totally. But if you are in a position where you can channel that, new year, new me, clean slate, fresh start energy, and it helps give you that push to get started on something that ultimately ends up being a positive experience in your life, it's just a great idea. I can't stand people who shit on it. People who do that, I think you would have a better effect on the world by helping people set better goals and how to do that in a way that actually will lead to something productive. Cool. So how to set some better goals. There's so many things out there, and I read a bunch of articles trying to pull some stuff that I really liked that I found, the funny part is I first wrote out my resolutions. I thought that was the only thing I was going to do in this podcast. And I was like, don't be an idiot. Like, of course, like, you should be helping people set better resolutions. So I wrote mine out, and then I read some of these articles and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I went back through mine and I was like, oh, did I do any of that? And so we'll talk about that in a second. But the first one I really liked, I pulled like 7 different pieces of advice here. We'll kind of go through them. I won't take too long. Is align, challenge, and skill. And there's a really cool graphic that comes with this piece of advice called align, challenge, and skill. Not align like a line, align like ALIGN. Like align your the how challenging the goal is with how skillful you are in that thing. And it kind of reminds me of something I would say, which is like find the right balance between ambitious and attainable, right? You want to find that nice balance between, and so align, challenge, and skills essentially like if you're not very skillful in something, don't pick something super challenging, right? Find that right balance of where you're at with something. And so for me, I'll give an example. One of mine will be to, speak only Dutch with my dad. And that to me is really a nice match because that's kind of meets me right where I'm at. It's challenging for me because that's going to be challenging. I will want to facilitate faster conversation, which I can probably do in English, but I truthfully can probably do it in Dutch. And so I should, that's something I want to get better at in the new year. And so you want to find that right balance of how ambitious your goal is, how challenging it is for where you are with that thing right now. And so if you're like, okay, I want to lose weight or I want to get started in the gym, don't be, if you've never stepped foot in the gym, don't be like, I want to deadlift 4 times my body weight this year. It's like, well, let's align how challenging the goal is with how skillful you are in that thing right now. The second is scaffold towards bigger goals. I think that this is something we all kind of can nod along with and this is something I had to do multiple times with my goals. Scaffold towards bigger goals. So if you're sitting down for some New Year's resolutions and you write something and it's a really big goal, you want to build the scaffolding underneath it. And so ask yourself some questions, start to build some process goals underneath it, some stuff that you can actually do on a monthly, weekly, daily basis to actually get that thing done. I think a lot of people can nod along with that. I'm not a big goal setter. I don't think or dream big. That's not like, I've never been like, I want to have 10,000 people in my group, and 1 million followers on social media and make $1 million a year. Like I've never been someone who like gets off on this like crazy big goal setting. And maybe that's to my detriment in some way, like business wise, potentially. I'm not sure. It just never feels right. But even the goals that I did set for myself, I had to kind of check myself and I'm like, okay, but like, what are you going to do about that? How are you actually going to do that? And then how are you going to do that? And then how are you going to do that? And so we'll kind of get to how that plays out. The next was just reading a meta-analysis about goal setting, which essentially said that process goals do the best, process goals do better than performance goals, and performance goals do better than outcome goals. Essentially saying, instead of saying, I want to make $1 million. That would be an outcome goal. And then the performance goal would be like, I want to sell 50 cars. And then the process goal would be like, I want to improve my sales communication, whatever. I want to go to a class once a week to work on that, right? That would be that process goal, like exactly how you're going to do that. And actually that working backwards in that way can be quite helpful. And that kind of goes back to scaffolding towards bigger goals. There were, I have a goal of how many group members I want to have it by the end of the year. But then it's like, okay, well, how do you do that, right? What else do you need to make that happen? And then what else do you need to make that happen? And then what do you need to be doing on a daily, weekly basis to make that happen? That's the actual goal you should be focusing on most. Next was make your goal authentic. And so I'll tell you now that when I was making my resolutions and I had to go back through them, I asked myself 2 questions. The first was, why do you care? The second was, what are you actually going to do to make that happen? And the why do you care part actually really mattered to me. The answers to that question really made this a deeper process. Because as you'll see, there were some moments where like I was like, yeah, but why do I care about that? Because you make your goal authentic. Like what I take home from that is make your goals actually matter to you, not something that you feel has been projected upon you. And I went through my goals and there were moments where I was like, why do I care about this? I was like, is this something that I truly deeply in my heart of hearts really want? Or is this something that I feel I should be doing? And so that's a really underrated one for me because it really chalked off a couple of them, maybe crossed them out. And then it made others kind of double down and it helped clarify why I want this thing, which can be really important for motivation. I know a lot of people also kind of shit on this side. You should know your why. It's like, you absolutely should know your why. You should understand on a deep, deep level, like why you're doing something. So yeah. The next one is don't let the goals weigh you down. This is one that I've talked about quite a bit on the podcast. Which is goals can be great, but if the goals are creating an environment where you're now less motivated to do it because of the addition of external pressure, then it's a net negative. A lot of people are like, I want to do my first pull-up, or I want to deadlift this many pounds, or I want to do this many push-ups. And that goal can be awesome if it makes the process more fun. Those goals can be awful if they make the process more anxiety driving and more feeling of like this big burden and consequence. I'll tell you right now, I have goals with my endurance exercise in this new year where I want to run this or I want to do that. But one, I've aligned my challenge and skill and I've admitted with where I am. I've admitted to myself where I'm at and I've made sure that the goals were really achievable and attainable. But I know that if I make them too ambitious, that they'll weigh me down, that at some point, it's going to make the process less fun for me. So I've really enjoyed setting some goals with my endurance exercise, whether that's just doing a race or completing in a certain time or hitting this many workouts per week or per month or per year, or whatever. But I have seen a lot of this goals weighing people down thing where what they'd be better off doing is just focusing on checking the box of getting the workouts in and not worrying about every single day they test their chin up. That's first of all, it's a bad idea for getting your first chin up is to just try every day to do a chin up. That's not the best way to do that. But it's also makes the process less fun because you're always hyper fixated on whether or not you've achieved your goal yet, instead of zooming out, focusing on process goals, the day-to-day stuff, the stuff that's actually going to ultimately let you get there. So cool. Quick sip of this creatine here, and then we will get back to it. The next one is consistency over perfection, which is pretty self-explanatory. Make your goal something that doesn't require perfection, that you acknowledge, doing this consistently over time is probably what's going to lead to the most fruitful outcome instead of, needing to hit something every single time or it's a failure. And the last one is ask yourself, I guess this was a bridge into the next one, was like, ask yourself, what does that mean? Why do you care? How do you get that? And those were some things I really went through with my resolution. So we'll start talking about that. I broke it up into some categories of business, kind of family, and then hobbies and exercise. And so for business, I wrote down 2 things to start. I wrote down get 1,000 group members and start one new project. Like make one iteration to your business that's going to make you have fun, right? And for me, there is no playbook, right? I mean, I hate the word entrepreneur. I think it's just been so like wrecked by hustle culture, but technically I am my own business, and technically nobody's telling me what to do. And this ability to stay both doing things I enjoy and remain at the top of my field. Wow, that's a conceited statement, but I just mean remain in a place that I'm happy with, whatever. It requires, the initiative to take a step back and say, hey, what am I doing? And what am I going to be doing the next 2 years? And how can I iterate? And how can I stay enjoying what I'm doing? And how can I update my processes? And how can I go with the times? It's something that people are doing now that's all the rage that people want. Like, can I get a bite of that? And so where was I going with that? Starting one new project. So over the years I've iterated, right? At first it was a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I used to do it in a different way. And then I changed the way I did it. And then I took on less clients and focused more on social media. And then I started the group, and then I started a second group. And then we went to 3 days a week training, with a training option. Like, something just needs to keep evolving. And I know that I have to make that happen. Right. So those were my 2 goals: 1,000 group members and start one new project or iteration of what I'm doing that's geared towards continuing to really enjoy what I'm doing, not necessarily geared towards making a certain amount of money or anything. And then I kind of looked at those 2 goals and I was like, why do you care? What does that mean? And how do you actually get that? And so for the 1,000 group members, why do I really care about that? Like, do I need more money? Like, am I at a position where I'm feeling like financially where I need to make more money? And that, I got to tell you, that wasn't really where I was motivated from. I think it was, I wrote it down. So what really is motivating me is figuring out what my long-term work-life balance is going to be when the baby gets here, and when I want to be a dad, and when I want to be present. And I think that that's where I think I see the group as, first of all, I love my one-on-one clients. I will never stop one-on-one coaching. I love the intimacy and the depth that we can go to in one-on-one coaching. And that's actually, ironically, what one of my new projects will be. We'll talk about that in a second. But I know that maybe shifting just a little bit of where I spend my time to the group, just a little bit more, maybe taking on less one-on-one clients in the future, just having a smaller roster so I can free up time for my group, I think will ultimately give me a work-life balance that lets me be really, really present for my daughter, any future children, whatever, and lets me be dad, and lets me be around, and lets me, have that work-life balance that lets me be present in the way I want to. And so that was really, I was like, why do you care about growing the group so much? Is it egotistical? Is it financial? And I'd be lying if it wasn't part egotistical. Like, if I didn't get some dopamine from growing for growing's sake. I do. I think we all do. Progress is a dopamine giving thing. That was not articulate, but you guys get the point. And so, okay, so how 1,000 group members, how am I doing that? The big thing for me is twofold. One is grow my social media, and 2 is email marketing. So so now we have 1,000 group members, and underneath that we have email marketing and social. Grow my email, use email marketing more, and grow my social media. Okay, great. What about that? How do I make those happen? Right? I needed to continue to go deeper. And so for email marketing, it's stay consistent with my newsletter. Always post a little drip campaign when my new cycle of programming starts. And do one giveaway every 6 weeks to grow my email list. I did the programming cheat sheet. I did the top 10 glute exercises, and those have really helped me grow my email list. And I know some people don't love email marketing. Personally, I don't love doing email marketing. And so what's happened is I've started to do it in a way that I actually enjoy. I love the newsletter. I haven't done it this week. We've been super busy with just holidays and stuff, but I will get back to it this Monday. And so I've really enjoyed I love the giveaways. I think they're super valuable. Some people don't love the idea of like, you got to comment on my post. It's like, well, I'm giving you something super valuable. Like, all it costs you is a comment. Like, it's like, I'm giving you something really good. So as long as I make those giveaways really high quality and I make my newsletter valuable, then I do this email marketing thing in a way that feels really good to me. That feels right. That feels valuable. It feels like a fair trade. I get your email. You get a bunch of actually valuable stuff from me. And then the second one was grow my social media. And I wrote down 3 things. Number 1 is Focus on quality over quantity. Stop stressing over posting every day if your posts aren't good. And that doesn't mean that you have to have such a high threshold for your posts that everything has to be perfect. That's not what I mean. What I do mean is that, like, if I'm having a really busy day and I haven't had time to really make a pretty decent piece of content, that I don't need to stress, that I just need to sit down for 10 minutes and write out some shit. In those moments, maybe something like reposting something old, or a quick witty tweet or something will be good, but don't worry about spending hours on a video. Last year, it's funny, the last couple of years, it's been quantity over quality. But Instagram sucks these days, and organic reach is awful, and nobody sees my posts, and it's more competitive than ever. And these are all facts. I make a post that 10,000 people see, and like 100 non-followers see it, and I gain 1 follower. So I don't want to turn this into a social media event sesh, because my last point is, don't give up even when shit gets hard. You need social media. I need social media. And so I can piss and moan and cry about how bad Instagram is, or I can say I can do 2 productive things. One is quality over quantity. Don't worry about spending hours on a post to make it better. And even if it doesn't do well, you got to stick with that this year. Hey, you guys have seen my video quality has gone up. The editing has gone up. I've taken YouTube lessons. I've hired some help with this. And then the other one was hiring help to help me stay organized and strategize. And I have hired my friend Rico. If you don't follow Rico, he's just an awesome social media person, social media coach. This is what he does for work, helps people with social media. Shout out to Rico, been super helpful, helping me like just make posts in a way that I can make sure that they're valuable, but also play the game a little bit, to be fair. And it's just been a good experience so far. And so my 3 for that was quality over quantity, hire some help, don't give up even when shit gets hard. And so those would be my social media ones. And then the second thing for business was start one new project or iteration. And for me, that's going to be some hybrid coaching. And I don't, when you give something a name, it always cringes me out a little bit because it always makes something sound super fancy that isn't fancy. What I just mean is take on one-on-one clients in the new year that are passionate about running and lifting together. And doing that, not in a super neurotic way. I'm not saying you have to be some like triathlete or some shit. Just somebody who's like, hey, I'd like to do both of these in my life, and I'd like to take them both a tiny bit more seriously, such that I'm going to hire a coach who wants to do this. So taking on clients who want to run and lift together and who want to learn about that, how to do it, how to get better at both of them simultaneously, all that stuff. For the last 6 to 8 months, I've been a mentor of one of the greats in this field, Alex Viada, and it's just been super duper fun to learn from him. And no, I've done one race. I'm not like claiming to be, on Alex's level or anything close to that. But man, has he done a really good job getting me to a point where I actually feel pretty darn confident with some of this stuff. And feel really excited about continuing to learn more and help people. And so from a purely enjoyment standpoint, I know that's going to be something I really enjoy. And so the question is, how do I do that? The 2 things I wrote down were be more selective with my one-on-one. That doesn't mean I'm only going to take clients who want to do this, but certainly some. And then the other was, hey, just jump in, because there are some new things that come with that. I'm going to change a little bit about how I organize my coaching business for those clients. And I have to learn a new program called Training Peaks, which I'm been using for the last 6 to 8 months, but I have not been coaching people on a grand scale using it. So I'm learning it now with some clients and feel more and more confident. But I know myself, I need to just jump in. That's what I did with online coaching, whatever it was, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. 5 years ago? 5 years ago. And I figured it out, and I know I kind of need to just jump in. Cool. And the reason that I wanted to do all this, I was like, why do you care about all this stuff? And it was because I think that it will allow me to have a work-life balance and be with my family more. I'm not necessarily obsessed over making more money than I am right now. I'm more obsessed with, can I continue to make a living and work less so I can be with my family more? Or can I continue to work the amount I am, but enjoy it, right? And continue to enjoy it. First of all, I love what I do. I'm loving what I'm currently doing. But I do know that iterating things every couple of years is even just slightly, helps me stay continuing to really enjoy it. Awesome. So what are some family goals? There's really only one, and it was set myself up with a schedule where I can do my work, but also be mega effing present for my daughter and hang out with her a ton. I've been messaging with Jordan Syatt back and forth for the last year, I feel like, as we just have gone in through this pregnancy and watched Jordan and his just absolutely adorable daughter just have a ton of fun. And Jordan and I obviously have a similar business structure. We both work online. We both work from home. We both do most of our work from a laptop on a couch somewhere. And so we just have had a ton of chats around what that's like, work-life balance when nobody's forcing you to get up and you have the opportunity to hang out with your daughter all day and do stuff with her and, be dad and take care of her or whatever. How do you find that work-life balance? How do you create a schedule that allows you to fulfill yourself professionally, but also be dad? And so that's really where my goals are. And so what are the specific things that I need to do to make that happen? One is everything I just said from a business perspective is continue to work on the things I know will either give me some time back or continue to give me enjoyment. And the second was look into hiring help. We live in North Carolina. Our family live up north in New York, New Jersey. So we don't really have grandma and grandpa to come over and watch a baby or anything like that. And we are going to need some help. I talked about that with Jordan recently as well. It's I'm going to need a certain amount of hours during the day on certain days. Jenna is starting full-time work as well, which we're super happy about. Everything is good there. But yeah, we're going to need some help because, as much as I want to be home and be present, I also need to do what I need to do to support the family and all that stuff. So hire some help. And that's something that in January, probably this weekend, I'm going to start looking into. It's I don't even know what that process looks like, who you hire, what they do in terms of time and all of that stuff. I need to learn. That's something that I decided I'm going to do this weekend. Cool. And then, last one is hobbies and exercise. And the first thing I was thinking about is all right, what do you really care about here? And for me, it's a lot of mental health and social structure sort of stuff where I was what are your hobbies? What even are your hobbies? In some ways, exercise is a hobby for me. That's something I do outside of my day-to-day work that it kind of is my work, but it's something I really enjoy, good for mental health. I'm a big believer in hobbies. I'm a big believer, what the fuck does that mean? I'm a big believer in every person having stuff that they care about that is separate from their work and separate from their partner. Now, you can have hobbies that you enjoy with your partner for sure. But I don't know. I'm a big believer in, even in a partnership, even though Jenna's my best friend and my wife and the mother of my children and person I want to spend a ton of time with, I still am a firm believer in having something that's yours, that you can do alone, that you could do alone if you wanted to. So for me, something that falls into that category is getting back on a soccer team. First of all, that also falls into what I could do with Jenna. Jenna and I played in some co-ed leagues. Jenna's amazing at soccer. We have a ton of fun on co-ed. Frankly, whenever we join co-ed, we do really well because she's really good. And you know what? We used to play on co-ed leagues where the girls' goals would count as 2, which kind of fucked up. Not really a big, huge fan of that, but we had a ton of fun with that because Jenna's mad good. And so get back on a soccer team. We need some mother effing friends. And I was just saying that because back in Texas, the minute we got there, I joined 5 soccer teams. Jenna joined one, we joined a co-ed, and all of a sudden we had a circle of people that we could hang out with that just whatever, man, social interaction. And since we moved to North Carolina, we really haven't made that same effort, mostly because the day we got here is the day we realized Jenna was pregnant, and she had a super rough first trimester, and we just didn't feel inclined to go out of our way to go meet people and go try and. There's a million soccer leagues around here. We looked it up before we got here, but we just didn't. We were just focused on the pregnancy and focused on the baby, and she was having a really rough go. We were in the ER 5 times in the first 4 weeks that we thought that we knew she was pregnant. And so I just feel like we didn't do as much to put roots down in the early stages. Now, obviously with the baby and stuff, it's going to be hard to my free time's only going down, not going up. But I think it's still something I want to push myself to do. And so what I said is there's a spring league that starts in March. I'm going to sign up for a men's league over 30. Got to play with the old dudes. And that's something I know is really, really good for me. And, maybe I can maybe I'm a little bit more fit than I've used to cardiovascularly, and that'll be nice to just feel. Second was speak Dutch exclusively with my family, so we can talk shit about people behind their back. No, but that is I gotta tell you, I said to Jenna, I was like, Jenna, you really, I mean, I'd pay any amount of money for you to know Dutch, because there's just so many opportunities. Like, me and Jenna have such have that thing where, like, if we're in public, there's just like so much we want to say to each other. And I was like, if you speak, like, no one speaks Dutch. It's like, you can't really do that with like Spanish or something. It's like, people know enough Spanish just in America that you can't really say anything, but like, if you know Dutch or like some other like obscure language that really nobody speaks, it's a huge benefit. And my mom learned Dutch. My mom's not from the Netherlands, but they lived there for like 10 years together. And my mom learned Dutch. And so that was always just funny, like, as a family, just whatever. It's nice to have your own thing, I guess, whatever. So what are my goals for, like, how do I make that happen? Keep taking my weekly lessons. I've been taking weekly tutors with a company called Preply. I love it. Absolutely love it. Shout out to my man, Casper. My tutor, great tutor, super fun. And then the second thing was, again, speak exclusively with my family. And then I've always talked about booking a trip with my dad and brother, just like a little boys trip to a Dutch speaking country, whether that's, going to like Curacao or going to the Netherlands and seeing, my aunt and some of my dad's friends. That seems more likely. But, even if we went to like Curacao and just enjoyed a more tropical Dutch speaking place as well, I'd probably rather go to the Netherlands and do a little Euro tripping. But doing that has always been something I was like, oh, if I do that, would that motivate me to really be able to speak Dutch? And the thing about Dutch people is, the minute they know that you're they speak such good English there, that the minute they hear that you're not like a native speaker, and my accent is solid for Dutch. My accent is solid. I grew up hearing it. I grew up speaking it, not fluently, but enough that like I can speak it in a way that you don't immediately know I'm not a native speaker. But the minute you like slip up and you're like, you say something just maybe slightly incorrectly, they switch to English because they want to be respectful. They're like, oh, you don't really speak Dutch. Let's speak English. And so my dad was like, you're going to have to be pretty good to fool people long enough to like really practice your Dutch. And so that is always just something in the back of my mind. That would be fun. And then from an exercise perspective, the only goals, I don't really have any goals, because once the baby gets here, my goal is to put everything on maintenance and just train, probably twice a week with weights and twice a week with cardio whenever I can fit it in. And that's even a bar that if it has to get lower to make room for dad life, I'm okay with that. I don't care. I'm not going to care about anything. Yeah, I'm going to care about my mental health and my physical health for sure. But for a short-ish while in the scheme of things, I don't mind turning those knobs down a little. Excuse me. Yeah, so my goals are, I'm going to do a 5K in the end of March. And the reason is that I did this half marathon and it was really cool, but I want to do a shorter race because I want to learn more about what changes when you take somebody who can run a 5K, but they want to run faster, right? I learned a lot about how to take somebody who's never run a half marathon and get them to be able to run a half marathon, because that was me. And so I learned the most about that exact process. And I've learned about, running marathon and programming for ultras and programming for 5Ks and a mile run, but like I've never done that. And so I will learn better by doing it. So I'm going to run a 5K and then I'm going to put everything on maintenance. But I will keep an eye out. I will keep an eye out on what's next, because I do have the racing bug. I don't love doing cardio at all. I don't like it at all, but I really have enjoyed sucking a little bit less. And to be honest with you, I have been lifting for the past 5 years and making no progress. What I mean by that is like, I have enough muscle now, which is not to say I'm super jacked. I'm not. I have enough muscle now where here's factually what the truth is. That's redundant. Is that in order for me to get any bigger than I am right now, build more muscle, it requires doing something I don't feel like doing. Right? That's it. That's just like what push is coming to shove here. In order for me to build more muscle than I have right now, I need to go into a surplus and I need to really focus on lifting and I need to devote a little bit more time to it. And that circumstance just isn't something I want to do. But with endurance exercise, I'm still enough of a newbie where I can expect to get markedly better over the next 3 to 5 years. And I want to get markedly better. I don't need to be, I'm not obsessed with being the best of the best of the best. I don't really give a shit about that at all. I just know that I'm it's so new to me that there's an opportunity to get notably better. And that return on my investment is very motivating. To see myself get better is motivating. And with lifting, that's not happening right now. It hasn't been happening for years because I haven't been willing to do what I have to do to get there. I haven't been willing to go into a surplus. I don't want to do that. And I haven't been willing to train more than like, man, I'm training like 100 minutes a week right now on my hypertrophy stuff. I don't really feel like doing more than that right now. So it's not like I can't get larger. Of course I can. I can build more muscle for sure. I just don't want to do the things. And with endurance exercise, there's still a lot of meat on that bone because I'm brand new to it. And so that's been something I've been really enjoying. Cool. So those are my New Year's resolutions. Get 1,000 group members, start one new project, which is my hybrid coaching. Push hard on social media. I guess that goes back to growing the group. Set up my schedule so I can be present and I have a good work-life balance such that I can be present and be dad, but still fulfill myself with my work. Get back on a soccer team, speak Dutch exclusively with my family, and do a 5K and then put everything on maintenance. Those are my New Year's resolutions. And to be honest with you, like I really feel good about those resolutions. I really feel like they meet a lot of the criteria just based on like process goals, scaffolding big goals, aligning challenge and skill, making sure they're authentic and they mean something to you. And I really tried to sit with that last one of like, what really means something to me? Because going from right now, there's like 760 people in the group and getting 1,000 people, like that number doesn't mean anything to me. I want really people to think about the authenticity part of this all. Like that number doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care about that number. But it represents something I do want, which is like maybe the potential to open up some time in my life to be dad, right? And maybe that route of growing the group will afford me some time back elsewhere that I can spend on something else that I really like. And so going through your list and being like, why do I really care about this? What's really important about this? Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, that does really matter. Okay, let me work backwards, build some scaffolding, build some process goals. So, all right, I'll stop. I'll get off the wagon here. You guys get the point. Cool. I'm interested in what you guys have. I talk about this with some clients. I think that if you're going to set New Year's resolutions, if you're going to do it, take it seriously. Don't make it a throwaway thing. And if you look at your goals, call yourself on your bullshit. Like, is this some bullshit goal? Like, I looked at the 1,000 group members. I'm like, is that a bullshit goal? Like, do you actually care about that? And if you do, why do you care? And how are you going to get that? And so I would do that because I would hate to see people just kind of use this as a throwaway, right? I don't want it to be a throwaway thing. You can set resolutions that can be helpful. For sure. I guess now that I'm on the end of this podcast kind of waffling around, there are probably some personal ones as far as like who I am as a person. And if I'm talking off the top of my head here, it would be to continue to going to therapy. I went to therapy every single week in 2023 and God, was it helpful. I mean, incredibly helpful. Just can't speak highly enough of being somebody who used to think therapy was bullshit and then going to therapy for I've been going to therapy for the last 2 years, maybe. Yeah. Since we moved to Texas, I've been going to therapy every week. So 2 years, every single week. It's been unbelievable for my mental health. Unbelievable. Continuing. Yeah. There's some other ones. Jenna has been a good influence on me on giving back to charity. And like during the Christmas times, that's like man, she's such a good person. She's such a better person than me. It's not even funny. Jenna's like, it's the holiday season, and Jenna like will like come up with like 5 different ways for us to really give back to people in need, and like come to me with like a proposal of like, hey, here's what I think we should do. Here are some good things that we can. And I'm like, yeah, I just wouldn't have the initiative to go and figure all this out. And so, God, she's good peeps. So continuing to do that, and we're not going to go through the whole therapy session here of like who I am as a person. But I think that might be worthwhile. But I'll probably save that for a therapy sesh here. But yeah, there are certainly some things that are coming to mind now as to who I want to be as a person and how I can improve on that. But yeah, not for today. All right. I will see you guys in the next episode. See ya.